to Texas 2036's virtual series, Straight Talk Texas, where you have a front row seat to conversations on topics important to our future. My name is Enisha Shropshire, Director of Board and External Affairs here at Texas 2036. I am delighted to have joining us today two incredible education powerhouses, Dr. Michael Sorrell and Dr. Heather Wilson. Dr. Sorrell is the president of Paul Quinn College, located in Southern Dallas. He has led this 4-year liberal arts-inspired, historically Black college since 2007. As the longest-serving president in its 147-year history, Dr. Sorrell turned Paul Quinn into a work college, the first in the state of Texas and the only urban work college in the country. Dr. Sorrell was recently named Higher Education's President of the Year by Education Dive and one of the world's 50 greatest leaders by Fortune magazine. Incidentally, Paul Quinn College is also where I took my first college classes as a high school student. Dr. Heather Wilson, president of the University of Texas El Paso, took the helm at UTEP in 2019. She came to UTEP after serving as Secretary of the United States Air Force and as president of the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, an engineering and science research university in Rapid City, South Dakota. Dr. Wilson also represented New Mexico in the United States Congress for 10 years. She graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in the 3rd class to admit women. These two trailblazers will join our own leader, Texas 2036 President and CEO and former President of the University of North Carolina System, Margaret Spellings, in a discussion on the role of higher education in long-term economic recovery, innovation, and the path forward for the next generation of workers. Welcome.
Thank you, Enisha. And it's great to be with two really good friends and fellow comrades in arms when it comes to being passionate about education and higher education and the role that we play in the future of Texas. So it's really terrific to be with both of you. And wow, what interesting, challenging days that we are in as you all think about leading your critically important institutions. And so I want to start with talking about issues circa 2020 COVID, but then get into the broader issues around higher education and our prosperity. I mean, Texas 2036 obviously is all about the future of Texas and how we are going to make sure that our people are fully prepared to access opportunity today and into the future. So let's start with this fall. How are you all thinking about school, about reopening? Obviously, you all are very different institutions, but also serve students who are similarly challenged in terms of affordability or other supports. Obviously, first-generation students, many of yours are. So Heather, let's start with you. How are you thinking about starting school and your commitment to learning fall semester 2020?
Well, we're doing all of the summer online, and we've got a task force like most universities do across the country on how we're going back to campus. It's not going to be exactly like last fall, but it's not going to be like this spring either. And so we're actually doing some tests this summer and rolling some things out and doing a lot of planning and trying some things. Well, there will be more distance classes than we had last fall, but we will also have things on campus. I think one of the interesting questions for higher ed, and I've seen, Michael, you've probably seen these too, about the future of higher ed. Will it be online or will it be in person? And that's the false choice. To me, it's what have we learned over the last 8 weeks that give us more tools to reach students in better ways, and it'll be more of a spectrum than it is a choice between A or B.
Absolutely. And before I get to Michael with that question, tell me about how your faculty is adapting or has adapted to these new platforms, and with, as we all know, an aging faculty and some of them in that at-risk category. How are you thinking about your workforce?
Well, first of all, kudos to the faculty who took an entire R1 research university and in 10 days turned it to online. And UTEP historically has not done a lot of online education. Less than 10% of our sections are online, and we do about over 4,000 of them every semester. And if we had planned this for a year and said we were going to do this, it never would have happened. Everyone would have said it was impossible. And when you have no choice, you adapt and you persevere. And I was really impressed by how some of the younger faculty helped some of us, gray hairs a little bit. I've learned 10 new software systems in the last 8 weeks. I think we all have.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Michael, why don't you take a stab at that? How are you thinking about heading back to school in the fall? Blended learning, what are you hearing from your families and students? And how are you thinking about your faculty and staff?
Sure. So for us, when we moved into the work college format and being an urban work college, we also transitioned to a hybrid delivery method. So for every course, roughly 50% of your seat time is in the traditional delivery system and 50% is remote, right? Or it could be just different methods.
Place-based, yeah.
Yeah. And so that gave us an advantage when it came time to have to make this shift, because we had 2 or 3 years of ironing out the things that we didn't do well and improving the student experience. So our faculty was able to, in a week, to just take the other 50% that they were used to delivering in person and deliver that remotely as well. Now, what we are always fascinated by at Paul Quinn is this idea that we can always be better, right? We don't think any problem is ever permanently solved. You just solve it enough to get an invitation to solve it some more. and that's just the way we built our mentality. And so what we're working on now, and what, I've challenged the faculty and the leadership in academic affairs, I said, we know that students from under-resourced communities do not enjoy online learning. I said, it's just, our data has shown that. Like, what we have to figure out is why. What is it that people who have gained great comfort being online in every other aspect of their lives, this is the one place that they don't particularly enjoy? So, we started diving into that. And what we discovered was that it generally comes from the fact that our students are coming from places where they felt ignored in the classroom, where the only way that they feel really validated and seen is being in class with someone who acknowledges them. That's why they like a small school environment. So what we are doing is we're partnering with an entity, and I can't say their name because we're arguing over the one last contract point right now, which will get ironed out, and we'll make a big announcement maybe as soon as next week, where we're going to use a different format for the online delivery system. And we're going to use it as a beta test to determine whether or not this is actually something that could be scaled up to be used for all institutions who have similarly situated, economically challenged student demographics. But for us, we view all of this as a public health issue, right? And, we have said if there's no vaccine, if there's no widespread testing, then we don't really see a pathway for us to conduct courses the way we've traditionally done it in the fall, right? I mean, we'll make a determination. We haven't made a 100% decision on that yet, but that's, we're leaning towards, saying, look, we have probably close to 70% of our student body is in summer school right now, right? And they're taking those classes remotely. So it's giving us the ability to be in touch to further refine our delivery method. But what we don't ever want to have to do, and what for 13 years I've never had to do, is call a parent and say that I have lost your child, right? And we've been very, very blessed that we haven't had those scenarios. And I just, for me, I'm trying to understand what's different today than it was in March, and I don't see very much different. So we would like to go back. We understand institutions that will ultimately make a different decision. But for us, we're going to be overly cautious.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to just the wide variety in higher ed. Talk about your faculty and staff. So they're obviously adapting to this new abnormal.
Yeah, we if you work at Paul Quinn, you understand that innovation is the rule of the day, right? So you you don't ever get too comfortable in any one format,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So they have adapted beautifully. I mean, I really, I'm so proud of the work that they've done and the way that they have risen to this challenge and how incredibly supportive they are. I mean, they get it. I mean, they understand and they appreciate having their health and safety being considered because we have older staff members. We have staff members that will be highly susceptible to this if we bring them back. And they also just look at the students and say, do we really want to base our health on being able to corral 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds?
Right.
So
Fair.
they're okay.
Yeah.
They appreciate the caution.
One thing that's driving me crazy, Heather, I'm going to turn to you because I know you've spoken about it a bit, is this let's all take a gap year business. Yeah, I can see that Michael is reacting the same way I do. So I want you all both to react to that. What do you tell people who say, isn't this a great time for a gap year? Heather, you start.
That's fine for upper middle class kids with families that are going to, send them off to Europe on some backpacking trip or something. But for students like Michael and I serve, a gap year, 1% of those students will go on to earn a meaningful post-high school credential. And we know that. We have this wonderful relationship in West Texas between the school districts, the community college, and the university. And we have all the data. We know what that means for a student from a low-income background. And so that's not even on the table. Not on the table.
And so are you designing programs that where students, I know you probably have them already, get credit for, particular life experiences or customized sort of programs and such to the extent that there is that demand?
So UTEP is an unusual school in that it's a class 1 research university. So it's in the top research universities, but it is also a Carnegie engaged institution. So engagement in the community in which we live is meaningful for our students and is part of our mission. We're actually going to double down on engaged learning because I think what students have and what we've all learned about ourselves over the last 8 weeks is that we're very social beings and we need to be connected to each other and finding meaning in our work. And so connecting what happens in the classroom, whether it's this way or in a classroom on campus, and the world around us is even more important. And so we're going to double down on engaged learning, particularly from freshman year on.
Terrific. Michael, talk about gap years, talk about credit for life experience, talk about how you answer that question if and when asked.
Sure. I'm like Heather. I just, when people start talking about gap years and what a viable option that is, I immediately know that they are coming from a perspective that has no understanding of our student populations, right? And really disturbingly, they don't even understand what the reality of higher education is soon going to be for them. I mean, the majority of students in this country are coming from low-income backgrounds. The entire southern half of our country, those 55, 60% of the students in those states are coming from backgrounds where they need free and reduced lunches just to have meals.
Yeah.
So to talk to them about a gap year, I mean, like it's completely laughable. Out of touch, right? What I think is interesting is the fact that what students need is more school time.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, so what we're working on at Paul Quinn is sort of the anti-gap year, right? What we're saying is, what if you come to us immediately out of grad, like no summer of fun, right?
Yeah.
You start, and for a solid 12 months, you are in school with us, right? And we do adulting, right? We do adulting, we do workforce preparation, and we coach you up because we're in Texas, so we'll use some Texas terms, right? So we'll coach you up in terms of your academic pieces as well. Because if we can give you a solid 12 months of intensely being focused this way, then one, we think we can engage you in a way that increases your probability of completion, but also prepares you to be something else. Because the reality of it is, if you are coming from a Pell Grant background, the chances are you have had long-term unemployment or underemployment in your family. So there are deficits there. But instead of defining people by their deficits, let's focus on a way of just engaging them differently. And, you know, I loved what Heather was saying about them doubling down. What we have decided to do is we are beta testing our honors college this fall. So we're a little different. You give us a crisis that disrupts things, and then we decide that we're going to implement all the cool stuff that we've been waiting to do, right? So we've got an honors college that we're beta testing, but the entire honors college is challenge-based learning, right? So it's interdisciplinary challenge-based learning where students are going to be given real-world problems over the course of a year, and they're going to have to solve them from different subject matter perspectives. And they'll be evaluated on their progress with solving these problems. And it's tough. I mean, we tend to beta test these types of things in the courses that I teach. And then we use the data from those experiences. And the theory is you're going to put your best foot forward in the president's class, right? So we'll be able to see what it is where there are some holes. And it's going to be challenging.
Fabulous.
And there's going to be moments of frustration. But the benefit of when the light bulb goes off is just extraordinary. So we're excited about that.
So I'll start with you and then turn to you, Heather, on this question. And that is that, look, millions of our fellow Texans are unemployed.
Yeah.
And, you know, higher education has got to do a better job at all levels, community colleges, public universities, private universities, of connections with our employer community and pathways into a job. And we have often had the luxury of not, worrying ourselves with some of that, and that is over, and especially now. And so I want you to talk about how you're thinking about those, your own student population, but also adults who are going to be looking to you about, you know, how am I going to get a job? I've just been laid off, et cetera. And Heather, I'm going to turn to you, and I know that's an important priority for you all out there as well. So Michael, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead, Michael. You start.
So one of the things I love about UTEP is they have a really strong connection to their community, right? So, I think that's the way you do it, right? For us, we invite constant feedback from employers as we're designing pedagogical models. I mean, we came up with this whole reality-based learning model, and that came from our conversations with our employer relationships. And when we asked them, what are the skills that students need to thrive in the workplace? They said they need to be able to write well, they need to be able to speak well, they need to be able to solve complex problems in like teams, and they need to have strong digital literacies. Well, the reality of it is 3 of those 4 are the liberal arts, right? Writing is grammar, speaking is rhetoric, and we'll call teams and complex systems logic, right, and reasoning. So the foundation was there. It's just that we never updated it to really be more applicable. So I think that you have to engage the people who are hiring your students in the process all the way through. And that, it doesn't have to be threatening to your faculty, right? Because if they're sitting there as well, engaged in that conversation, they become more informed. Everyone benefits. Now, on the adult learning perspective, we will be unveiling this fall PQCX, which is our reboot of adult education, which is short-term, inexpensive credentialing programs, right?
Wow,
so you come for 3 to 6 months. The cost is enough where no one should have to take out a student loan, and it's easy on-ramps back into getting a skills reboot and back into the workforce, right? And we're excited about it. We've been beta testing something like this because we've added it to our regular model with our students as well. So now at Paul Quinn, you get your degree, you get your 4 years of work experience because of the work program, and each year you pick up a new industry recognized credential, which you can then apply in the workforce as well. So you have 3 ways that you can access to get a job. We're trying to make higher ed poverty proof.
Terrific. Heather, you answered that question about, connections with the workforce, particularly in a challenging time of 20% unemployment or whatever it is.
Most of our students are working their way through school, and we consider that to be a strength, not something they should apologize for, because it's giving them experience in the real world and in applying the things they're learning. What we worry about, of course, and Michael's probably the same way, is that a lot of those jobs, a lot of them have lost their jobs in the last couple of months. One of the things we're actually looking at using our CARES Act funds for, the institutional CARES Act funds for, is to increase our engagement with all sectors of the West Texas economy and help pay for that first internship. So cost share with businesses that, whose customers have gone away, their markets are going to have to change the way in which they do work, and they need these young, innovative West to help them onto the future. And so as I said, we're going to double down on engaged learning, and that includes paid internships that we're going to help our students get. And so we think that there is intrinsic value in work. It's not just a check. It is the value of creating and being part of a team and making something better, and that's important to students.
Absolutely. You mentioned on a couple of times in our conversation being an R1 institution. What role do you think an institution like yours plays in this time of, challenge all the way in every sense, in public health and in you name it. I mean, so talk about what you're doing with your research agenda out there that's on point to the times.
Well, we are one of the largest research institutions in Texas. We also produce more Hispanic PhDs in science than any other university in America. And so we're developing the next generation professoriate. And I'm one of who believes that it's hard to be what you can't see. And our students need those role models. From a research point of view, yesterday we just reached an agreement with the city of El Paso. We do research on genetics and the genetic of disease. Mm-hmm. Well, we are now, the city lab needed more capacity. First, we loaned them our faculty to take shifts because we teach clinical laboratory science, and that wasn't enough. And so we bought FDA-approved machines on a handshake with the head of the Emergency Operations Center. The lawyers sorted it all out. And effective yesterday, we're actually doing the assessment for COVID testing on campus with a city-run facility on my campus. So this is a kind of shut up and start bailing moment.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing. And we are committed to the community that we serve. And that's just, we use our gifts to serve that community. That's what we're doing.
My last question for you, and then Michael, I'll ask it of you. What advice do you have, or what do you want our policymakers at the state and local level to know that they don't know? I mean, as I've done a lot of press and so forth, and talked to educators and policymakers over the last several weeks, it's amazing. I think we have a job to do with respect to educating them and helping them understand what being on the front end of these issues looks like for students and families and faculty and communities. And so what is your, what pearls of wisdom do you want them to have?
Sure. I from my perspective, I think the most important thing is that education is the source of hope. It's always been the ticket to a dream in America. Always, particularly for first generation students and for first generation in America. And we've all lived that. I lived that. And our students are living that today. And so in a time of economic uncertainty, education has to be there as the kind of light that you walk towards when everything else seems uncertain.
Amen, amen, amen. Beautiful. Michael.
I loved Heather's answer, so I can't take that one. I actually want them to understand that we are now entering a period where all of us have to be in learning mode,
Mm-hmm.
right? That no longer can you embrace your ideological biases and your fear of appearing weak or unprepared, because none of us are prepared,
Right.
right? All of us are in a moment where we're facing things we've never had to face before. And the only way to succeed is to get through them together, right? So we are entering a time that will require unprecedented partnerships and cooperation. And that means that we have to set aside a whole bunch of whatever we came to the dance with and dance with the music that's playing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just hope that they would be open to partnerships in every way that allows us to get through this thing the best way we can, because that's what our state deserves. That's what our students deserve. That's what our institutions deserve. And that's just the right thing to do at this stage.
Well, and if I may, as a matter of personal privilege, say that one of the things I've observed is I think people have really come to appreciate the role, whether it's mental health, food security, community, you name it, that our institutions and our K-12 schools have played. And when they're gone and when there's an absence of that, it is felt. And I think I keep talking about more for more. I think our policymakers should look to our platforms to be proliferators of a lot of good things and a lot of needed things. And together we will make the case for that. Broadband, mental health, food security, on and on, and make this world a better place. Anisha, I will turn back to you for whatever closing comments you have, but take a moment to thank my friends Heather and Michael for joining us, yes, but for their incredible leadership in their communities and for their students.
Thank you all for watching Straight Talk Texas. If you have questions and feedback, we want to hear from you. Email us at straighttalk@texas2036.org and follow us on social media and sign up to receive our emails. Visit texas2036.org for more information. Until next time, wishing you and your family well.